Hey,
I've
Dad
always
worked for Nestle. Dad worked for Nestle, mate. The free Kit Kat today didn't really work too well.
This is potentially the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. And that's saying something, because there's been some stupid stuff in the history of it.
For me, what was the most rewarding, just learning, taking stuff out of them, and also being given this platform to be able to stand up and represent, people of my time.
The only way really to kick poverty in the butt at all is through education, and I probably didn't realise until I went there.
Shouldn't they should back you at Water Cooler Weekly? I mean, it's a big deal.
It is my pleasure now to introduce the former University of Houston punter and the tallest punter in college football history, Dane Roy. Dane, thanks for joining me today, mate.
Yeah, mate, it's good to be here. It's a lovely day back in Australia.
As I sort of touched on in the introduction, you're fresh off a 4-year stint in the University of Houston where you played college football. But how you got to Houston is sort of an incredible story itself that involves the MCG and maybe the most important torpedo you'll ever kick in your life. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to enter the Carlton Draft Barrel Time in 2015 and did the tryouts there, made it through to the heats, through to the semi-finals, through to the grand final. Long story short, I needed to kick it over 66 metres with my last kick of the comp. And it was down to me and I nailed it 73 metres. And as soon as it hit the foot, you just know, oh, that's going. That is going. And it was a really good feeling. And won couple of dollars for me and a couple of dollars for my footy club, Richmond Centrals, and had a trip to America. And that kind of opened up the pathway of becoming a punter, because I don't think I could have afforded it. Yeah. At Pro Kick Australia without the funding and all that, because it's pretty expensive. But Chappie still squeezed money out of me, even though I wasn't meant to pay.
Yeah, no, Chappie's good like that. I was watching, as I said before, I watched the video last night. There wasn't a lot of time in between the last kick and the kick before that. What was going through your head at that stage?
I felt like it was a lot of time. Like watching it back, there's not a lot of time, but I felt like this was the longest wait ever. As the second last kick went, and he kicked it 66 metres to take the lead off me. I previously had it. So, and then I was like, oh boy. And then the wind picked up, it's swirling in my face. And apparently Brody, who the guy, the MC, he ended up officiating our wedding, by the way. This
Small
last
world.
year. So we did that because it's kind of like a full circle. He was there when my life changed, and he's there when the life changed as well. So I think he was saying, don't go yet. They're not ready. But in my head, I was like, this is taking forever. The wind's in my face. Then the wind just died down and I'm like, all right, I'm going. Bang.
It was also grand final day as well. Probably an important thing to point out. It wasn't in front of, say, 5,000 people seeing North Melbourne and Fremantle playing.
No, it was a packed house. It was like 100,000 people. And I did what I needed to do, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a step back from that. And before Houston, talk about what your life was like before this. Before you'd even kicked that, was college football something that you had ever thought about or had ever even really entered your mind? Or were you just sort of...
Didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
No, I pretty much learned about college football halfway through 2015 when I think Joel Dixon came down. He's a boy who played some football at where was it? He was at like near Compton in Compton, but I can't remember what it was called. But it's like he referred to it as that, and then he was at UAB, and then
when they came back in.
Yeah, and he finished up there and decided to be become a music producer / roadie. Well, back in 2015, his brother was coaching Richmond Centrals in the twos, and he came down for a night and said he does this. And I had a chat to him. I looked at his stuff online, and I was like, I could do that. And then kind of knew about college football from there, but didn't do too much. So I had a tryout with Chappie and all that, and paid him $150 for a conference or consultation. And then I was like, I don't have the money to do that. Plus, I don't even know if my schooling was good enough. And then fast forward, win the competition. They deep dive into my schooling and they're like, yeah, you actually could do it. You got the skills, you got the power, and we'll teach you how to kick. And yeah, that's pretty much had like a crash course in college football and everything like that. And I still don't really understand a lot of the rules. Like, I know that people are like, oh, yeah, that's a flag. And I'm like, all right, cool.
What for?
Who's it against? Is it against the offense or the defense and shit like that? So, and I'm still doing that. Like Super Bowl on Monday, people are going to be asking me questions on what's this mean? And if they don't know, just pretend, make sure that they can see that you look like you're confident. And if you start to be like, then people are like, you don't know anything. But if you act confident, you can get away with anything. And that's pretty much what I did the last 4 years as well.
100%. It's all about the way you deliver it. Like, I sort of touched on before, like I worked at Sportsbet where I used to live trade these college football games, and I'd be like, I got no idea what's fucking going on either. And I'm probably one person who probably should, seeing as I'm the odds maker. You mentioned Chappie there. Obviously, Pro Kick Australia is sort of I'm not sure if we mentioned it in full, is the program that sends punters to America, run by Nathan Chapman and John Smith. What was your first introduction to them and going through the whole process? And then when did Houston sort of come into the picture?
The introduction to Johnny and Chappie, I think I met Chappie like June during 2015. And then I met Johnny about like October or November after I'd done all the competition and all that. And they were really professional outfit from the start. It's like you Google how to punt in Australia or like punting places, and there's only one that pops up, and it's Pro Kick Australia. Like you compare the rest of them, you compare a Pro Kick Australia to like supermarkets and global chains and retailers and stuff. It's like this is your top echelon stuff, and every other competitor in Australia, it's like a guy working out from his garage or something.
Like a Bilo.
Yeah, Bilos, like Tucker Bag and stuff like that.
Franklin's, no frills.
But it proves itself as well. Like you see the quality that comes out of Pro Kick Australia and the amount of awards all the Pro Kick Australia punters win, and it's consistently getting scholarships and all that. It's not really a competition. If you want to become a punter, you just got to go to Pro Kick Australia. It doesn't really make sense to go anywhere else because there's not really anything supporting all the other stuff there. So it's like go to where like all the stats prove to be. So
yeah, absolutely. Do you remember your first impressions of the university? I know a lot of guys, when they talk about this, they sort of say, the first visit, they say, I fell in love with the school straight away. Was that what it was like for you?
I think I just fell in love with the idea of going over there. I always wanted to live in America. I never thought I would do it. And then, a couple of months of training, I ended up having a lucky enough, a team wanted me, and Chappie and Johnny knew that I was going to accept whatever offer I got straight away, just because I knew it was awesome to get a scholarship and go wherever. So they kind of withheld a few offers from me because they were at like lower schools, and they're like, no, we know you can do some big things. So Houston came along. They needed a punter because their senior punter finished up, and they wanted someone ready to go. And I flew over in the middle of 2016 and pretty much had an awesome time from then on. It's just like, I remember driving on the campus first time and I was like, wow, this is like one of the movies, because they've got the gates and all that. And then I went to the stadium and stood in the middle there. It was like hot because it was in the middle of summer and it was humid. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And then I looked at a picture the other day and I was in there. It was 4 years later. I'm like, crazy. Yeah,
time flies. The whole college experience from afar just looks absolutely insane. You could say a long way from playing local footy with Richmond Central on a Saturday. You said the senior punter there moved on and you just came straight in, obviously with no experience. What was it like playing in front of these crowds of like 50, 60,000 where, you could say to yourself, 6 months ago, I was literally back in Australia with not even close of a thought in my head like this?
Yeah, I had a lot of surreal moments, and I usually would make the most of it too. I just before the game, you go for a punt and all that, and then you sit on the bench and watch the team warm up and stuff. And So I'd just look around and like, wow, I still remember a lot of the places that I looked around at and took the time out. And the first one that just comes to my head was Lincoln Financial Field at Philadelphia. It's just, that's where the Eagles play. And we managed to play Temple there. And my best man came to that game. He was living in New York at the time. He's about to move home. But he was there with his wife and my wife eventually. She was there at the same time. And I just taking in all these amazing experiences because like I'm here now in Australia and I'm probably never going to be over there in that position ever again. Maybe I'll win a sideline seat one day, but you just got to like, wow, what did I do in my life to change to get to here right now? And then at the start of my last season, game 1, we played Oklahoma on a Sunday night, primetime TV, because there was no NFL games, and I won the coin toss against Jalen Hurts and 85,000 people then. We didn't win the game, but I won the coin toss, so you could say it was a pretty big thing.
He's still thinking about that on an NFL roster, you know, how much that haunts him. Let's talk about the punting side of it, because obviously it's not as simple as, you know, oh, I can kick a AFL ball, I can kick a torp like that. It's a completely different mechanism and process. Yeah. Chappie and Barron, as we touched, are the best in the business. Maybe talk about, you know, learning the craft there and like how difficult was it for you? Was it difficult?
Yeah,
it was for me.
First time I had punted with Johnny and Chappie, it was, Chappie, it was in June 2015. It was a really cold night. I think I punted a few too many times as well. And I ended up having like a bruised foot because that's what you do. You don't know how to kick it properly. You're trying to curl your foot up. And so baptism by fire, you could say, because when I came back a couple of months later, he was like, all right, now what did you learn from that? And I'm like, well, bloody foot hurts if I don't kick it properly. And it doesn't go as far if you don't kick it properly as well. So it's all about, they break your technical ability down as well. And they're like, all right, we just want to keep everything straight. And they like refine it back to where they need to. So I'm kind of like trying to undo all that work they've done, because I'm trying to play football this year and do some goal kicking from the forward pocket, 200 centimetre forward pocket. You wouldn't want to play against me, would you?
No. But, good forward pressure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to relearn how to kick a Sharon. Like I'd always bring a Sharon across to training in Houston, and bring it out every now and then. Watch the Americans just like heads explode of how you kick it, how you handball it. So I never lost the Aussie skill, but it's always something that you need to remind yourself that this is totally different to Australian football.
Yeah, absolutely. How long do you reckon it really took you to say, maybe not master the craft, but really be confident and say, I know I'm going to hit a good ball almost every time?
I think it was like either I started in October, you'd say. And so by February or March or April, I was really, maybe I think it was like May or April or something. I was really like hitting the balls really well. I was playing at Gosh's paddock with Alex Danaki, and we were like punting very, really, really well. And I was like, oh, I could even declare after 2 or 3 years. And
I might actually just skip college.
I don't even think I got anywhere close to that in my first 3 years. Like I never got close to that level I was at Chappie at Gosh's paddock. And I think it's probably maybe a bit of my fault as well. I didn't learn how to cope with adversity in punting wise, like over in the States, because you don't really have a coach to help you punt. Like it's all you. And some people are lucky and they have another person there as a senior, and you're the freshman, and you can learn from them while you redshirt, like Hugh Robertson and Blake Hayes right now, and the Utah boys. When Tom Hackett was finishing up, Mitch was there for a bit, and then Mitch with Ben Lennon. And I think there's a few other examples like that, but I didn't have any of that. And I kind of took the easy way out and just kick drop punts for the first 3 years. And then I didn't really obviously need to kick spirals because that was pretty decent for me. And then my last year I kicked spirals and broke all these records. So maybe I should have done that from the start.
Yeah, it's almost like, you hit a 60-yard, 5-second ball at Gosh's paddock and you and then you get in front of 60,000 people and you're like, oh shit, this actually might be a little bit tougher.
Yeah, it's a bit harder than Gosh's Paddock, isn't it?
Yeah. How often did you find because obviously you're training at Gosh's Paddock, you know when you're kicking the next ball, right? But in a game situation, you're sort of, you could have one punt, you could have 10. You sort of never really know. How did you handle with that aspect of it?
Keep warm. It's the hardest thing ever, to keep warm. But I break it up into 2 halves, or you can do it into 4 quarters, really. The first quarter is pre-game. The next quarter is the first half. And then 2 thirds, actually, because you don't need to worry about after the game. So you've got pre-game, first half, half-time, and then full-time for the second half. So you don't want to bloody work yourself too much in the pre-game, because you're warming up 90 minutes before the game starts. And then you just got to, as soon as that happens, you just got to keep the leg warm for the next 4 hours. And if it's cold, hopefully you've got a bench that has got plastic seats with heating on it, so you can keep your hammies warm. And if it's hot, it's good because your whole body's warm. And if you're unlucky like me in a few games and you don't kick at all, it's like, well, that was kind of a waste, all the stuff I did during the game to keep warm. I didn't even have to use it. But you kind of learn over the years as well. Like the first couple of games, I was like, what do I do? And maybe luckily I was younger at the time and I could afford to punt a lot on the sidelines. But by the end of the year, I was like, yeah, I'll be good out there. And sometimes I'd run out. I'm like, oh, I am not warm at all. And I'd be like, getting like, oh, pins and needles in the hammy.
Yeah. Do you think having a, you sort of touched on there with the Utah and all the other guys like Illinois, and that having someone with experience there to sort of guide you through like stuff like that? Do you think that would have been more beneficial for you? Yeah,
that would have been pretty cool, but I did enough to get through. I think it's for the pioneers who blaze the trail for people who have not gone to these universities yet. If they can do a good enough job that the coaches want to bring a second Aussie in, then they've set all the platforms up. So like Lane Wilkins at University of Houston right now, I think he has a lot easier than I had it, because I helped him out and set everything up for him, so to say, to make it like an easy transition. And obviously he's suffered with the COVID season, so maybe it evens itself out. But I think that if you can go there and someone's already laid the footprints and the foundations, I think that's pretty. It does make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
The coaches kind of know what to expect too.
Yeah, and I guess the coaches will sort of learn what works. Obviously, they adapt their sort of learning, and they might say these drop punts work better than spirals or whatever, and they won't have them, doing certain kicks and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. I try and say, well, you can always let them do spirals and don't fall into the trap of just accepting drop punts, because of course we can get drop punts going, but there's no drop punts that accidentally goes 60 yards. There's drop punts that accidentally go 30 yards, but there's nothing on the return side. Like you can shank a spiral 30 yards and you can hit a spiral 60 yards.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can't do that with drop punts. It's only bad news if you don't hit it properly.
Yeah, it's sort of the risk reward aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's 100% what the culture is in the NFL and in college football. It's like, oh, we don't want to risk it. We'll just accept what we know, like with the fair catches in the kickoffs, or not doing laterals with the ball after a catch or a run or something like that. I just see that all the time. It's like, whoop, pass it over there, there's an overlap, and then they come around and everyone's over there, and all of a sudden you've got the whole field. They're like, oh, we just don't want to risk the fumble, but you got to practice it. Just understand that the reward is massive.
Yeah, we're happy with a 7-yard reception. Yeah, we'll settle with that. The college football aspect of the story is obviously just one side of it. Maybe touch on the educational side of things, like what you're able to study and learn, and sort of how that's shaping you in, I don't want to say afterlife, because that's a negative probably way to put it, but sort of, post-university life?
I studied communications. I did advertising because I kind of like was interested in all that. And then I did a minor in graphic design. I'd like to say it's just digital media, but like it's pretty much graphic design. And I'd always wanted to learn how to do Photoshop and Illustrator and all that. And I didn't really have an idea of how to start anywhere. And luckily I found a bloody course over there, and it was like introduction to Photoshop and Illustrator. And then you kind of learn about layouts and typography and all that. And I'm pretty happy with doing all that because that's what I'm doing right now in the confines of this second bedroom in a rental in Hyatt. And
It's a beautiful little office.
Yes, it's pretty nice. And I've got a few things set up here. And let me grab this one. This, you might remember this from this is probably the coolest award I've ever got. But it's Special Teams Player of the Year in the conference. I never thought bloody Punter could ever win something like that. I ended up tying with a kick returner who'd returned like 10 touchdowns for the year. And I was like, not bad luck, mate. You have to share it with me.
Yeah, unlucky. I mean, let's touch on that. You know, at the end of your last season, you know, not only did you get that award, but you were also up for the Ray Guy Award, which is the award for the best college punter. Talk about that experience. Obviously, you had the red carpet treatment. I don't know if you're a reflective person, but what's your mind like in that moment? Are you sort of going, shit, how did I get here?
That was it, pretty much. I was like, this is unreal. Like, and the awesome thing was that my parents came over for my graduation ceremony, my last game and the graduation ceremony. And it turns out that this happened to fall the day before it. So we were lucky enough to score a private jet from Atlanta back to Houston to get us back ready for the graduation, because there was no what would you say, no commercial flights that would get us back in time. So some donor had donated the jet for us, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm walking down the red carpet like, oh my god, like, I don't get nervous too many times, but it didn't help that it was really cold. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm cold or nervous, but yeah, walking down the red carpet and Joe Burrow's there, Chase Young. It's like these guys, they're very serious characters, but I was lucky enough to make a few of them laugh just with some shit jokes. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
You have to do that sometimes.
Yeah, get to dress up and all that, and experience some something that I'll probably never experience in my life again. Yeah,
how much pressure did you feel with the suit game?
Not much at all. I'm pretty good with Pinterest and Instagram and seeing what the young kids are wearing these days. No, I had a custom made suit. It was just black, and I had a paisley black tie with a black shirt and a couple of gold pins on the chest, and yeah, it worked out all right. I got to meet Maria Taylor and had a chat with her on the red carpet, and that was broadcast on ESPN, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, to try and cover a 4-year college experience in such a short time like this would never do it justice. All in all, what would you say your lasting effect of the University of Houston is? You know, whether that be from an educational point of view or from a football point of view.
Lasting, I just think, I don't really know. I can't really sum it up quickly like that. It's such an amazing experience, and I really want people just to, if they can't get to America, maybe we could bring the game to them, or at least some part of the game, whether it's tailgating. Just I know that people do that with the AFL Grand Final, but I think there's something there that people for them to experience, and also like I think everything combined into one with the college band playing. That's one of the awesome things I loved, and I got to conduct the band. Yeah. In my last game as well, and so I think really appreciating just the different cultures in Houston as well, and everyone's a different person, and yeah, just making the most of your opportunity. I think that's my my motto: make the most of the opportunities that come your way, because there's not a lot in life.
No, absolutely, and I think something you touched on before, sort of a really good approach to have, is where you said it didn't matter what school, you know, you were going to take it. And I think that's Obviously people have differing opinions. I think that's the approach that I would have taken. And I think most people should take, because it is such an incredible opportunity, and, not everyone's lucky enough to get it. I was lucky enough to go to a national championship game, and it was like, if you've never seen a college football game, it is absolutely unbelievable. Like the whole band thing, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like the Olympics for one little thing.
It's almost like in some of these games, it almost has a sort of an AFL grand final sort of a vibe to it. But
Yeah.
for like a regular game, like say an LSU versus Alabama, that would feel like a grand final.
Yeah, 100%. They just go nuts because there's only 12 games a year max. They're the guaranteed ones, so people just make sure that they make the most of their opportunity when they get given it. Whether it's they make the road trip down to Tiger Stadium and go to this from Alabama, or vice versa. It's like, oh, this is massive. We've got to get to this game. This is going to be huge, and you can pretty much guarantee those games are going to be massive and like a really competitive one.
Yeah. So you graduate and you have aspirations of the NFL, but COVID sort of made the entire process for yourself and players like you a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about, what that was, the tryout process, and sort of your mindset sort of leaving university and going into that.
Well, I didn't intend to actually try out for the NFL. Like, that was my plan when I went over there originally, but then I had 3 years of kick and drop punts, not really setting the world on fire. So I was like, well, I'm happy I get to graduate, and I'm getting some cool shit while I'm at it. So I reckon I'll graduate. I'll have my bucks in Vegas in January, and then I'll head home. And that was the plan up until about November or October, and when some people on the football team were like, "Hey, the NFL teams keep asking about you. We keep saying that you're going home. What do you want to do?" And then I was like, we'll just see what happens. And then I kept that my punts were consistently up 45, 46 yards a game. And so I was like, oh, well, that probably won't continue. So I'll just not even worry about it. And then
Sell yourself short.
Kept going. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's luck anymore, because I keep doing it every week. Maybe I've just got to another level. And then, yeah, the end of the year, they put me in the Ray Guy top 3 in the Ray Guy finals, and ended up getting an agent and all that, and said to the missus, "Hey, this is an option. Can I do it?" And she's like, "Yep, let's do it. We've already waited this long. Might as well keep going." So we've been doing long distance as well. So, and then, the agent was like, "Yeah, you'll get an invite to the combine." And I was like, "Oh, really? Me? Cool. You sure?" And then the invite never came, and the agent rang up to the people. He's like, "Hey," he goes, "what the hell you guys were saying?" He goes, "Oh, he wasn't on the list to vote for." And he's like, "Well, why didn't your buddy put him on the list?" So that would have been pretty cool going on the combine. But
doing your 40-yard dash.
Maybe I would have done a Michael Turk and dropped the ball about 10 times off snap and shanked it everywhere.
I really hope he doesn't listen to this. Not sure if he does.
Well, through God, there's a lot of things you can listen to these days.
There is, and you've always got a voice to talk to, so all the best to him. Did you get an NFL tryout?
Yeah, I ended up staying in Melbourne for a little bit longer, because I was going to go back to Houston, because I was in Houston in January, moved home for a little bit in Feb and March, and got married in March, and then was meant to go back to Houston at the end of March, but COVID kind of stuffed it around. I stayed in Australia until May, and then went to America hoping things would open up, because, Americans don't really care. They'll just open up anyway. Well, they did, but NFL was like, hold on, everyone, we won't do anything until right at the last minute. Mm-hmm. So then all those tryouts that were meant to happen, and all those like preseason camps with the 2 punters, they never happened. Only a couple of teams brought in 2 punters. So that was pretty annoying, but luckily enough, I got a tryout with the Houston Texans, and I thought I punted really well. And I'm not consistently hitting the spirals in a row, and this day I hit like 6 spirals in a row out of like 8. And I'm like, geez, I'm reeling these off. And I don't think I could have punted any better. And they just were like, oh, thanks. We'll give you a call. And they spoke to my agent. They said, no, thanks. And I was like, oh, well,
Shit.
that was the best I could do. So
that's all I had.
yeah, like I'm happy with that, guys. Like, because imagine like you had your one chance and then you just shit the bed and you shank everything. It's like, well, I didn't really show what I could do. And I'm like, well, I showed what I could do, and that's not good enough. Bad luck. Let's head home. And that's what I did. I had a flight planned home already, and I was lucky enough that I booked a return flight when I originally booked it in May because it was cheaper. And that return flight saved me $3,000 in quarantine fees in Sydney because that's how much you had to pay. And it also saved me like a $4,000 flight home as well, because that's how much the flights were costing. So yeah, everything happens for a reason. And I got lucky with a few things, and I had my chance, and it didn't work out. And I made the most of it too. So I got a sweet pair of Houston Texans shorts, and that's about it.
And you can, mate, wear them everywhere.
I do.
If I still had,
you notice the NFL logo?
Yeah. just telling random people who are not even talking to you, just like, if I still had my rep cricket shorts from under 16s, mate, I would wear them. I'd wear them everywhere.
I once stole a rep cricket hat. I'd never played in the Traralgon District Cricket Association, but I found it at a game once. And I was like, well, that's going in my bag. And I think I wore it round and practice and all that. And they're like, oh, you made the rep team.
Shit, you must be good, mate. Yeah. No, I'm okay.
Play for Traralgon?
Yeah. I just play for the league, mate. Yeah, I just go where they tell me. Is the NFL... Are you considering that a closed chapter now, or is that something? That's all
closed. That's dead and buried, packed up and gone. That was. I'm happy to do that anyway. Like, if the worst thing that came out of COVID was that I didn't get a shot at the NFL, well, that's pretty good. I think there's a lot of people been dying and getting really sick, so I got to put that into perspective. And another thing that I understood was that there was some guys. Who were really talented finishing this year, like Max and James Smith and all that. And then plus the Americans you have to compete with. And I was like, I reckon those guys are better than me. So why would I try and compete with them when there's no guarantee they're going to make it? So, and I think it came time and my body was like, hey, can we stop all this like elite practicing and weightlifting and stuff? Can we just go back to like working out a couple of times a week and enjoying your life with your missus as well? So, yeah, I'm happy with all that.
Was that a difficult realization to come to, or had you made your peace with it?
Yeah, it wasn't really, because I kept thinking, I was like, well, I wasn't even meant to be here in the first place. Like 3 years in, there's no way I even get it or try it with anyone. Like maybe I get it for the Texans because they're like a local team and all that, but not because I'll have an agent. The fact that I even got everything like that was pretty cool in the end. And so I just went back. I'm like, well, I didn't think I'd be here and I got here. So that's something to look back on and say, well, that's pretty cool. But I think I was ready to go home as well, because being away from everyone during COVID and trying to keep away from sick people, it was just really mentally draining, and I had enough, and it came at the right time, and ready to move on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good approach to take. I know a lot of people in that situation would have a hard time having that, internal conversation with themselves, and that's completely understandable. But the fact that, you sort of look at it and go, I didn't think I was ever going to be here. So how can I get, mad or, upset about something on top of the cherry on top of everything?
Exactly. So I was like I even look at the games now. I was like, well, that could have been me. And I was like, yeah, but you would have had to do all the practice. You would have had to do all this and this and this. And then on the wintry, snowy games, if they need a field goal to win, you need to trot out there and then catch the snap and then put it down and then hopefully score the winning goal. But if you stuff that up, you're done. I know that's your job. That's a lot of pressure.
It is. And
I think I'd come to the end of that as well. And I was like, I don't think I even want it. Like I'd had all everything ready, but it's just such a dragging and long process. It's like, I'd have to go through all that again. Like, and then the first game's in September. Like, I mentally can't do that.
Yeah. No, it's and you know obviously the NFL has some really nice positives to it, mainly the pay, but it's not for you. It's one of those
No.
things that no point pushing it. We'll finish up on this one, mate. How often do you think back to that kick at the G and go, Jesus Christ, that changed my life?
I think about that often, actually. Like, just the practice, so I say practice all the time. People are like, what?
Yeah, Allen Iverson.
at footy training at the Richmond Centrals. I don't even know if I'll play this year. I want to play a couple of games, but maybe if we keep winning, I'll keep playing. But yeah, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, wow, my whole life changed because like the ball was on the foot at the right place and it had the right trajectory and all that. And
yeah.
I just like, you don't like to think about it. What's the sliding doors moment if it like doesn't work out? Like, where am I for that? But my wife tells me off for thinking like that all the time because I said, what if I did this back in 2008? What if I did this? And you can't really think too much about that because you're going to go crazy. But I just appreciate all the decisions that I've made in my life and really happy with it. And I do reminisce all the time about my life over the last 5 years and think, shit, that was pretty cool. And now here I am back home, ready to start the next chapter in my life. And can't wait to see some not too soon, obviously, but some little D-Roys running around, and I'll teach them how to punt.
Yeah, teach them how to punt it. You know, when they can start walking, send them to Chappie, and I'm sure he'll give you the the father-son discount.
Yeah, there won't be a discount of a lot either. I've got to pay my kids.
Good stuff, mate. Thank you very much. It's a very interesting story, and I appreciate your time. And I appreciate you for being so open. And all the best for everything moving forward.
No worries. Well, thanks, Dane.
Thank you very much. Thanks, mate. You too.